kind of died out. If Kofi Kingston wasn't made to look like a goofball on his one WWE title run, would it be respected more? Like certain angles, like with the whole Drake Maverick thing, where he came up with the video saying he was being let go or furloughed or whatever, and then come to find out he gets a contract at the end of this cruiserweight tournament. It's like now that I'm older, I look at it on of like, okay, is this not like an armchair like wrestling person, and not like Jim Cornette where I hate all of it.
But you can like, critique it.
Yeah, like does this common sense make any sense? Like if I'm sitting here just watching all these storylines, I'm like, this is stupid. Why would you book this person like this? Like they got themselves over like this, and now you're burying them because the writers don't have any wrestling backgrounds, or that's just where I'm at with it.
I got a question.
Sure.
When did you first start watching wrestling with that type of lens? Because I feel like I watched it as solely a non-biased fan, like up until like my sophomore year of college.
Once Stone Cold turned heel, and then my mom, because she actually like saw like the Ultimate Warrior in person. She went to a couple WrestleMania, saw the Undertaker in person. So like she told me stories about wrestling, and my granddad was a huge wrestling fan, and he knew like a bunch of wrestlers from like doing security and stuff like that. But I didn't really get those stories from him because he died when I was 4. So when my mom would tell me these things, and just naturally I'm inquisitive, like I'm watching it and I'm like, oh wait, Stone Cold's a heel? And then after like Benoit died and Eddie died and things started getting more real, and then you have the ruthless aggression era, that's when I started kind of really being more critical. Because I was like, why the hell would Stone Cold ever like be a tag team with Triple H? Like, yeah, that happens in real life. Like, you got to work. And they'll hold the invasion angle. Honestly, the invasion angle, I feel like it's wrestling. It's pre-invasion and post-invasion. It's kind of like people older than us look at the curtain call. I don't really remember the curtain call. I just remember Stone Cold turns heel. I don't even really remember Owen dying because I wasn't like, I don't know, I wasn't really that invested in the wrestling. It was like Stone Cold turning heel, ruthless aggression era, all this other stuff happening. Yeah, that's what I'd say. Probably around like 99, 2000-ish, 2001.
Okay.
All right, and then, you guys kind of mentioned a little bit about it, but, just with the Booker T thing, with, the relationships with 45, and I'm just wondering, like, knowing how black champions are treated and knowing their behind-the-scenes relationships and knowing, how, the fan base is, I'm just wondering, how do you guys deal with that? Like, is that something that you just come to accept and compartmentalize? Is it something that, there's not really a lot you can do about it, so it's just a matter of entertainment, escapism? Like, what, like, because I'm having the same issue now with the NFL and with really all sports somewhat now.
When I look at wrestling, I don't consider it a sport, honestly. Because the outcomes. Here's why. Here's why. They are athletes. It's higher than cheerleading.
Stop it.
It's definitely higher than cheerleading.
Wow.
But for the same reason that anyone,
cheerleading is a sport.
Cheerleading is hard.
Yeah,
to do,
don't be slandering cheerleading.
I'm not slandering. Okay.
They compete. They have competitions.
Alexa Bliss was a cheerleader and she's a wrestler, so she's an athlete. I'm not denying athleticism and all that, but I'm saying you look at wrestling, and the outcome is about legitimate as a Texas beauty pageant. Because think about it. 2 dudes get into a ring. 2 females get into a ring, right? The outcome is already predetermined. It's not like a boxing match. Like, that's why Vince can get away with not paying certain laws and dealing with certain statutes in states, because he doesn't call it the sport. He calls it sports entertainment. It's adjacent. Like, you're not going to sit up here and get me to believe that Rey Mysterio would really beat Brock Lesnar in a fist fight. It's not happening.
He didn't. But here's why it's a sport, and let me dispute that real quick. yes, you can say it's entertainment, it's predetermined, all that, but the one thing it has that other sports do not is the work ethic behind it, and it's year round. There is no off season. These guys are traveling the globe year round. There is no other sport that has that type of schedule where these guys are where they're putting their body on the line and risking it every single day of the year.
But there's also, I mean, if you look at some of these guys are failed football players to an extent. In some aspects, I mean, they were successful to a certain point, but you can't sit up here and tell me that Undertaker's win streak at WrestleMania is on the same level as Tom Brady winning all the Super Bowls. That's not really a fair comparison.
Why not? Undertaker's in his 50s and still performing. I mean, I'm not going to compare apples and oranges, but I'm not going to discredit it either.
I think you have to compare it more along the lines of like wrestling and
if we can really get down the rabbit hole, because Tom Brady didn't win all his rings by himself.
The Tuck rule. I'm still mad about that. I'm still.
But
very,
yeah,
very
man.
angry about it.
Back to the original question. Like, how do you deal with all the underlying?
It's like the racial
issues?
undertones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So my thing about wrestling, which is like I'm so passionate about it, because the body of wrestling is actually very diverse. When I was saying when you go to these events, you see all different races and creeds, things like that. Of course, the product itself, traditionally, it hasn't been as diverse. We got our first African-born champion in Kofi Kingston last year, but I think it's on its way to doing more things. You look at all the acts getting more pushes now. I think the representation will grow over time. But as a fan, when you go to an arena or you see wrestling fans, I don't feel like the wrestling body is segregated whatsoever. Where the product has been kind of segregated towards certain talents and glass ceilings of certain athletes in the sport, I don't think the fan base is like that at all, from what I've seen.
And to you, Rayvon, is it something that you're, hopeful for, like Cedric is saying, or is it something that you're more cynical about?
Well, no, because I've gone to a plethora of wrestling shows, and it's the same. Like, there's so many people, like different races, ethnicities, and everything that are there to enjoy. But I do feel that minority superstars are kind of held back in like pigeonholed and stereotypes, which is definitely kind of frustrating to watch as a black man when you see a black character. Like for R-Truth, great guy, he's hilarious. But why did you have to have tag jeans and rap? It's things like that I feel like, why do all the black characters have to fit a certain stereotype and like wear Timberland boots and jeans and be thugs and things like that? That's why that's the thing that annoys me. So seeing people like the New Day who are not a stereotypical African American like stereotype character is great, because you can see that they can do other things and still be entertaining and be great and be the top selling group in WWE and the most wanted group. Like when I worked there, you were told to push certain people, like to get certain people, opportunities and things like that. And when the number one request and the number one people are the New Day, that makes you feel good, because these guys are African American men that can show up so professional to a job and kill it, and everyone wants them back. So, and the things like that makes you proud, and that they're not that stereotypical kind of character. So, I mean, I think the industry is seeing things differently and things are changing. So I'm definitely excited about that.
Black men should have cried when Kofi won that title. That's why wrestling's real.
They did. R.I.P. Shaq Gaspard. Yeah. MVP that video. I saw
I'm glad you said that. That's where I feel WWE drops the ball, black men. I feel like they should have done more of a celebration of life for Shad Gaspard. When you see all the stories of how many lives he's touched, and I didn't expect a big Black Lives Matter push, but I expected to see more of a statement than what they had, if that makes sense, with so many black superstars in prominent roles right now.
Perfect.
Yeah, they should have done more. I agree.
And I want to touch on that because this next part it's a microcosm of what black people go through in certain positions. Like the Leo Rush situation, him and Mark Henry. I look at just on the sheer fact that, okay, you have guys who are lifers at companies, And you have guys like Leo Rush who knows that wrestling ain't going to be around forever. The same way Xavier Woods has said on on that podcast, New Day podcast, that wrestling ain't going to be around forever. And even though they were kind of using some real things in that storyline with Kofi up to WrestleMania, like, yo, I can go do something else. I don't have to do wrestling. I don't have to be putting up with the racial pigeonholing and all this other stuff. And you look at a guy like Leo Rush, who pretty much he put on his IG, he talked about how some of these antiquated and outdated locker room customs that they want people to do. He's like, it's not my contract to be somebody's chauffeur or butler or pay for everybody's drinks. And personally, I agree with that concept. Like when Des Bryant was like, Rory was like, hey, rookie, hold my bags. And Des Bryant said, you can kiss my ass. They drafted me to take your job. You can carry my pads. Like, I can't fault a guy like Leo Rush, and then I look at a guy like Mark Henry, and you can say, yeah, you're responsible for most of the black talent down there, but you're not doing this. Like Leo said, you didn't get me to WWE. I got myself there. So I feel like it's almost like when they can't control every aspect of your career, then they turn on you. And I thought that was kind of gross how they did Leo.
Well, did they turn on exactly? His cruiserweight title run was actually one of the dopest ones I've seen.
His comeback was great.
His comeback was amazing. It let you see the talent they had. But, I mean, he was right to call out WWE about the Drake Maverick storyline because so many other people got let go. And it's a shame that him and Mark had to do that over social media. And did he go and bust it open and talk to Mark?
I don't know if he ever did. He went on other people's podcasts, but also it's like busted open. I look at them. It's almost clickbait to kind of like say some of the things they say and then say, "Okay, come on the podcast." That's not really. It's almost like you're going to a house knowing you're about to get jumped.
Right.
That's what I look at it as. So I can't really I'm gonna have to fight about 4 or 5 people. I'm probably gonna get kicked in the head several times, but I might get my point out. I might not. And for a dude who just put out an album, and by the way, before he put this album out, he had some great stuff out, like Scenic Lullaby. He's put out some really good music projects, and I think him like going online and selling all his wrestling gear, that's almost like a huge, almost like him just saying, I'm closing this chapter in my life. And it's kind of sad when you see it has to come to something like that with a black wrestler. In this day and age, they can't just be allowed to be multi-versatile and all that. Like Ron Killings is pretty much shoved out there to, not for better or worse, shuck and jive, and he makes Vince McMahon laugh. But everybody knows he's not dumb. He's playing a character, but he's playing a character so beneath what he can actually do, people get offended by it. And then you see Lashley putting that stupid-ass storyline with Lana. Like, it's kind of just like, it's like a devaluation of black talent.
Yeah.
And it's almost a slap in the face, and it almost makes you not want to make wrestling legitimate because you're choosing to not put someone over, because the basic stereotypes in wrestling for black wrestlers is you're either that big ass goofball who everybody can make fun of, you're the class clown, or you're the smiling babyface heel, or you're the militant black dude. And they pretty much made fun of Malcolm X when the whole Nation of Domination angle. Like, they had some racist promos back then. So
right. And it's not just, and it's crazy because it's not just the black wrestlers either. It's all the minority wrestlers. When you look at guys like Jinder Mahal, Muhammad Hassan, they're just the angry heel, the angry foreign heel. Yeah. And they did the same thing with Asuka for a minute. They turned Shinsuke Nakamura heel and told him and said that he can't speak English when he speaks perfect English. They do it with all the foreign superstars. And I think that's just something that you unfortunately won't see go away until Vince goes away. It's just those old ideologies over certain characters and gimmicks that he thinks makes perfect sense that are not so black and white as they were in the 80s. But the thing about Leo I think is cool. I mean, he's only, 25?
Yeah.
So I think him selling his wrestling gear online is kind of a beautiful thing. It's kind of like, I'm going to put it in contrast to CM Punk, where I don't need to do this. So if you want me, the price just went up.